That's the expert's opinion on how to use the resources, but it's up to the team to plan their own lesson on climate change.
How shall we approach the starter? We talked about the ring, didn't we?
Yeah, I think passing around the ring to each pupil, letting them have a good feel of it, good look at the ring, pass it around quickly, and then the question, sort of, what might you need this for if you lived in an area, if we can bring this resource in. This is showing a very important area to the whole global warming issue, so we can link that in nicely, the globe, link this in, have it on the wall, and that's a good starter to get them thinking about the issues.
And perhaps they don't, I think that's a fantastic idea, and perhaps they don't need to pass it around too much. Perhaps that's a more speedy kind of like, what's this about? And then later, when you want them to spot that it's been made in China, maybe that can be the more hands-on bit.
So someone needs to blow it up. And
The rubber ring, I think, was particularly a good example of what you can get out of random objects, because simply that rubber ring we then got made in China, plastic factories. China, it's transported over to the UK, the CO2 emissions involved there. It shows you can make a lesson out of almost any object, I think.
They're coming up with some interesting ideas about how to use the article.
And whether you give them a piece of A3 paper and they just put the graph down and then they annotate it. They haven't actually stuck it, but they just annotate it so they can have some notes that they can then brainstorm and get their ideas back.
If we separate them as well, we can also not only just ask them, what does this source tell us, but what else do you want to know? And so then when they come back together as a three, they can say, well, actually, I'm really confused because what are these figures? And so then that person can be like, well, actually, this
I think the article helped us frame the main activity, or one of the main activities of the lesson, to actually give the students detail, give them graphs, give them information, and also recognising that particularly global warming, it is a scientific theory, although it would appear to be there's a lot of evidence. It is a theory, and science moves on and discovers new things. So really, you need to teach it in that framework.
And we can maybe have this at the front the whole time. I don't know, the sticker on it saying, why does this matter? At the end we go, well, you know, here it is, the atmosphere, this is it. It's in this, it's like controlled and we know where it is, but you know, we can't see it. It's vital to us. Look, it's this fine skin on our globe.
Resources are key to a good lesson. They don't have to be expensive, they don't have to be complicated, they don't have to be technology bound. A good resource will do you for a Year 6 lesson or an undergraduate lecture. You don't need complicated resources, but you need to think about making links between different things.
So maybe we bring this in the end to make some great sort of philosophical point about its absolute importance to life on Earth and how it's in our hands.
People tend to switch off when they hear about climate change. They think, oh, I've heard all this before. But in reality, this is an opportunity to get deeper, to go below the sort of skin deep and actually understand the causes of climate change.
With only a few minutes to spare, Katie and Stuart need to decide how they're going to team teach while Paula gets the resources ready.
Okay, right, so now we need to actually work out our timings a bit more precisely and who's going to do which part.
I don't mind doing the starter activity with the rubber ring.
Could I summarise then up to this point, and I'll introduce the fact we're doing who is responsible and put that on.
And I know that Katie and Stuart, as they were doing their final planning, would have been feeling a little bit the pressure of time. Identifying what they're going to focus on will probably be quite a challenge, and then how to make best use of all the resources and not over-focus on one or miss another might be a challenge as well.
I know.
I need to make a decision because I think we've got them in about 5 minutes.
Let's keep it how it is then.
So you're going to pass the ring around, introduce a concept map.
With the world mapper as part of that concept map.
I thought we should cut the article up because it gives each student a focus, a starting point. And if you give them only one bit and that's all you ask them to read and you give them time to do that, then it focuses them and they're more likely to pick up on some of the key points. Stuart, Katie, we've got 5 minutes and we need to blow up our ring as well.
Right, starter. God.
Yeah. No, you're giving it to one child.
Okay.
So choose a child now, so we're not worrying about that. Who are we going to give it to?
Mine's. We've got the newspaper cutting.
Yeah, it's one background maps and the paper cutting press.
There's the final touches to the resources, and the pupils look ready to learn. But will Katie keep on track with the lesson plan?
And even though I'd sort of written it out, it wasn't very neat, I hadn't had time to neaten it up, and so that worried me, that would I follow my thoughts through.
Alphabetical order is staying, guys. Right then, we've got this image here, a makeshift arrow here pointing to somewhere on this image. Who'd like to tell us where it's pointing to, roughly which sort of country here? There was a lot of anxiety leading up to it, and we were thinking, are we gonna flop here? Is the lesson gonna fail? Bangladesh, yeah, superb, straight away. Right then, if I give that to you, have a feel of it, have a look at it, try and think why you might need this if you lived here in the future.
Oh, because there's a lot of flooding in Bangladesh, and because of global warming, it's just going to get worse.
Super. So a bit like the rubber ring was particularly useful in engaging the pupils, grabbing their attention, linking it instantly to what we were doing. It played sort of like a short, sharp role.
Because you did see the kids sort of sit up and think, well, what is this great spotty rubber ring doing here? And they went from establishing a location on the satellite image of Bangladesh and then unpicking from there what might be happening there and why that might be happening.
How does this, other than the link we've already had with flooding, how could this link us to climate change again? Have a look at it. Then you've got to pass it on.
China. That's probably then.
Like it got you asking different questions about it. Like with the rubber ring, it was like, where's it come from and how is that linked into it?
How could this be used to help us understand and link to climate change? Anyone got any thoughts? Harriet?
Globalisation is really behind like climate change, and even though we need everything from other countries, like we have to use planes and things to get them there, which causes like big climate change.
When you hear the word climate change, okay, what three things do you think of? What three things do you know about this topic? Okay, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes just to have a little think. I want you to write those three things down because it's going to help us in some of our discussion in a moment.
We knew they'd have some prior knowledge, but we didn't really know how well equipped they would be with that, how it would materialise on the day. So we felt that if we gave them a little bit of thinking time, which is where the jot down three things came from, that better helps you manage an effective question and answer afterwards, to try to establish shared understanding of climate change and the key elements of it. And I think that's probably the most daunting bit of the lesson, really, and that bit had to go well, otherwise that had to link into this responsibility and interdependence section, which was our real focus for the lesson.
2, 1, write pens down. Okay, Anisha, can you tell me, what have you got?
Global warming, pollution, water levels rising, it affects plants and animals, and melting ice caps.
Okay, excellent. So within that answer, you have got some causes and some impacts. So what we want to think about today is actually who is responsible for this and what can be done about that. Okay, so that is what we're looking at. Who is responsible? Mr. Dear.
Okay, so you've each got 3 different resources. What I want you to do is annotate as much as you can each resource to tell us what it's showing, and also I want you to think about what else you'd like to know on top of that information you've got. Again, I thought the newspaper article was really useful, good resource to give to the pupils, who then spun off with some amazing things from it. Connie, I noticed you were writing some good things down earlier. What would you like to say about the article?
It actually says that the average CO2 of each Briton is still much higher than that of Chinese people. And China are going through their industrial revolution right now. And at the time we were probably producing much more CO2 than they are.
Yeah, Roger, yeah.
Basically, and if you think about it, a lot of their CO2 is produced in the factories, and the factory, what they make in the factories comes to the big countries like England and USA. So really, it's sort of England and America's fault.
What you're talking about there is a link called an interdependent link. Get the word down if you haven't got it down already. It's a very important word in geography, and one that you'll find you'll use a lot as you go through geography into GCSE.
I was really pleased the way that they both presented, and I thought their styles were quite good together. They weren't too samey and they weren't too dull, and their handovers were nice, and it seemed quite relaxed and natural. And I think the students got that. I think they just went with the flow.
So using this to help us as well, so we can see where CO2 emissions are produced, and then your thoughts from this lesson, can we create as a group a concept map? So put in the places, and then I want you to explain how these places are linked together to actually reduce climate change, and also thinking about who actually is responsible. Down the bottom.
We're in like a society which relies on other countries. If Britain had to rely on its own sources, we would have a rubbish football team, eat fish and chips and get obese.
Yeah, so basically China is becoming a superpower. Yeah. So we can't really do anything.
Some great discussion around the room, and that's what I find really exciting when you hear them talking away and arguing away with each other, and I was really pleased with that. That to me shows that we'd given them enough prompts to really get thinking, and that they were coming away, I guess, really empowered with that knowledge that they'd gained.
Right, there's one more thing then. This has been sat here all lesson. Has anyone noticed it?
Yeah.
Okay, there's something quite interesting inside it. Anyone got any ideas of what might be inside it? Meg? Oxygen, anything else inside it? Catherine?
Carbon dioxide.
Okay, excellent.
There'll be some nitrogen in the jar.
Okay, so generally what is in here is this little bit here. Okay, it is our atmosphere. Really, really important stuff, and that is the stuff that is changing, and that is the stuff, because this is changing, that we need to make our changes. Okay guys, thank you very much, and well done.
For more suggestions about using resources, go to www.teachers.tv.
And now I'd like to know from you, what do you think about that lesson, your initial comments?
I thought it was better than our normal geography lessons because we got more like involved. Each one of them gave you something different.
I really enjoyed thinking about other countries and not only how they're affecting global warming, but how we're affecting them in doing that.
I love hearing people's synthesising their ideas and expressing those things, and just having a realisation, like light bulb moments, and that was really exciting to hear those. So that's made the lesson for me.
I like the resources bit because you actually get to look at a resource which is just normally just forgotten and put aside in normal life, but if you look at it geographically you can see that there's a lot more to it that you wouldn't normally notice.
You are right.
It was just exciting to see them deliver their opinions. It was a really good experience. We've had a great day. I think I've learnt a lot from it.
I've learned a lot more, and I remember this lesson because it was really different from what we usually do.
That approach works very well, and it worked well with those students today, and some of their comments at the end about what they now understand better were really, really heartening. I'm thinking, yes, we've made a difference there, and that is the point of school geography. So that's good.